anybody that's listening that y'all probably didn't get to your positions just by playing it safe all the time. It's growth actually does require some risk, and you can't be courageous unless you're at least a little bit scared.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Follow Lead Podcast, the Christian Leaders Podcast, powered by EB Solutions, energy benefits for every business. Go to ebsolutions.com and learn how you can save real tax dollars with their energy savings. Again, go to ebsolutions.com and tell them Tony sent you. Friends, today on the podcast, returning offender Trey Tucker. You're going to love this conversation with Trey. We talk about the need for community as a leader. We talk about this brand new initiative that I'm so excited about. I know you're going to love it. I also think one of the things that Trey does really well is he brings in real life situations and gives it a counselor's lens. And I think we're going to talk about that plus so much more. So now, here's a quick word from our partners in my conversation with Trey Tucker. Trey, welcome back to the podcast. So excited to have you back on, man.
I'm fired up to be here with you again. And I have to say, can you teach me how to say powered the way you just said it when you're doing the intro?
It's a little gravitas in the voice, man.
Yeah,
you got it.
You might have some acting in your future.
Well, that's kind. This year, one of the things that we're doing is we're wrestling with the 12 most Googled leadership questions. And I'm so excited this month to get you to answer the question. It's all about being overwhelmed or burnt out, which I know is so much about the work that you do. So let's say that you were sitting across from a young leader, maybe somebody who wants to do the best they can to try to represent their faith and also be a strong marketplace leader. And they were wrestling with that feeling of being overwhelmed or burnt out. What kind of wisdom or advice would you give them on how to deal with it?
I always try to start really, really simple because, with this topic, you could quickly get into really abstract, almost theological types of approaches, and that can be helpful. But first, let's give somebody a small win, and then they can build up to maybe the deeper stuff. So I just ask them first, how much silence do you give your brain a day? And usually the answer is nothing. If you're like me, when I'm in the gym, I've got AirPods in. When I'm driving the truck, I've got some sort of music or podcast going. When I'm around the house, I've got TV or something going. It's like at the end of the day, my brain always was taking in information and it never got a chance to just chill. And it would be like if you, I know you're training for Kilimanjaro and I do my own lifting. It's like if you and I were in the gym and we were both just doing bicep curls constantly and we never set down the dumbbells and then we left the gym and we kept curling, just brought the weights with us, our biceps would never grow. In fact, they would collapse. And that's somehow we expect our brain to be able to just keep on lifting and processing all this information. So I would just ask, hey, start with maybe 10 seconds of silence and just see how that feels. Because for most people, that sounds daunting. And then just build it slowly each day. If you can build it to a minute, even 2 minutes without wanting to run out of the room, you're doing better than probably 90% of this country. And eventually, the reason I ask them to do that is because the research shows that God wired our brains to know how to fix themselves for the most part. There's certain things it needs some help with, but if we just give our brains enough silence, enough space away from the noise, the brains know how to self-repair. It's almost like a self-cleaning oven. And so that's where I would start with anybody who's feeling that burnout, and then you could build it from there.
Yeah, I think in the Christianese language for that would be the practice of solitude. John Mark Comer talks about that a lot in Practicing the Way. He would argue that solitude is one of the single most healthy practices that a Christian can do spiritually. When you think about why most people, especially leaders, are resistant to silence and solitude, what are some of the things that you've seen as because like you said, it is daunting. 10 seconds, daunting. What makes that so daunting?
We're running from ourselves. That's the quick answer. But what that looks like practically is there's a lot of thoughts that I keep on trying to smush down, and there's a lot of emotions that I keep trying to smush down. And then all of a sudden, when I give my brain some space and some silence to lift up what needs to be processed and needs to come out, it's really uncomfortable. And so I'd rather just keep running. I'd rather keep staying numbed out or busy or listening to whatever. And I get it, but we're choosing the short-term comfort and instead we're getting the long-term discomfort. So if we can flip it and choose the short-term discomfort, man, we get the long-term peace.
You've been leading at a high level for a really long time. How do you know how much silence and solitude is the right amount based off the season of life that you're in? I don't always feel like my judgment is the right judgment, and so it's like I don't know about that. Am I? I have just learned that I shouldn't trust my own voice all the time. I think I'm trustworthy, but I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're asking
Like, how
how
do you
to.
know how much is the right amount of time based off the
Yeah.
season of life that you're in?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that this morning as I was leaving the gym. I thought, okay, we're always going to be leaving one season, entering into another one. Generally, and I don't know what your framework is for this, but generally you're in a pretty nice, good, peaceful season, or you're in one of those seasons that's kind of, I don't know, what is this? I'm stagnant, and then other times it's a war of a season, and
Mhm.
so does that
Yeah, that's
resonate with you?
exactly right. I'm either in a really great season, or I'm in a rough season, or I'm in some sort of weird kind of ambiguous like season in between where I don't feel settled at all.
Yeah, yeah. So the way that I try to do this, and I'm far from perfect on this, but when I'm in those either the unknown, unsettled season or the really battle of a season, I try to get 20 minutes of silence a day.
Mm.
Now, do I succeed in that all the time? Heck no. But I know that in those seasons I need more just to survive. And then 10 minutes of silence is my maintenance for just if life's going pretty good. Because I know if I don't get 10 minutes of silence, and I start stacking those days on top of each other without the 10 minutes, I start feeling cranky. I'm feeling more foggy in my head. I'm not treating people great. I'm less grateful. And I can usually trace it back to how much silence am I getting.
Yeah, I find that if I start to rush my morning program, like my
Mhm.
morning routine, so for me that's like getting up, and then I do some of that like salt hydration water stuff before I go to the gym. And so then I relight is what I use. And then if I'm on good days, I'll start with silence and solitude on the back porch. Like I just let the creation kind of testify to who God is,
Mhm.
and then get into God's word, and then get to the gym. That's
Mhm.
like that's the best version of me. And then once I get home from the gym, walk with my wife. And then on days where I have a little bit more time, and my mornings start pretty early, then I might sit in the sauna for 15 or 20 minutes and
Thank you.
start responding to my emails. And like I do some of that stuff in the sauna while I'm just kind of sweating out some toxins. Is the way it feels. I don't know if I'm actually sweating out toxins, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. Hey, the placebo effect, right?
That's right. That's right. What about so you tend to what's the rest of your morning look like? I know you in various seasons you teach a lot. So in various seasons I'm sure it's different, but what are some of
Yeah.
your daily disciplines that you're like your go-tos?
I'm a fan of variety. If I do the same thing for very often, too much in a row, I just get sick of it. So I've never had one particular morning routine. I kind of make tweaks as I go. I mean, the main two things are some version of silence and some version of scripture. And whether, how much of that in each one, it's always going to vary on the season I'm in, but I at least try to get those. And if I can get my workout in the morning, that's great. But if I can't, I get it in the afternoon. I've learned a long time ago, I gotta not be legalistic about things like morning routines. Cause if I'm white knuckling my self care, then I'm defeating the whole purpose.
Mm. Well, one of the things that's interesting is the last time you were on the podcast, we talked about your newest book, Tough Enough, and how important that has been to help young men, especially, but really all of us wrestle with mental health issues and what does that look like and what's it mean. I'm curious from your experience in today's world, what are you seeing with leaders, especially these high achievers? What are you seeing in the mental health world today?
Man, yeah. Two angles come to mind. First, when I talk to guys that are in the more of the managerial roles, they talk about the frustration of how do we connect to these younger employees, the people in their 20s, the Gen Zs? How do we motivate them? How do we communicate in a way that they don't somehow get offended or whatnot? And then flipping it, talking to the Gen Z employees in the corporate world, they feel the same frustrations. Like, I want to do a good job. I want to be respected. I don't want them to think I'm incompetent, but there just seems to be this, I don't know, it's like both sides are speaking two different languages. And so I think there's an opportunity there for some version of training or coaching or mediation to help these generations kind of bridge that gap.
Do you think that the generations aren't talking to each other because of what the manager's bringing to the table, because of what the employees bringing to the table? Or is it like, because here's what I've noticed. I do a lot of coaching, as you know, where I work with leaders of all ages. And one of the things is it just feels different. The
Yep.
next generation just feels different in the
Uh-huh.
terms of what they are prepared to do on behalf of the organization and what they know to do on behalf of the organization. And I feel
Yeah.
like some of the older guys that I coach get super frustrated, but some of the younger guys are going, why are they being so unrealistic? What do you
Mhm.
see?
Yeah, yeah. I think ultimately we want the same things in any generation. It's just certain aspects of goals are more emphasized. So, for example, a lot of surveys show that Gen Z really emphasizes work life balance. And obviously, that's great. It's just sometimes some of the Gen Z folks can take it so far that it's all work life balance and then they don't end up doing what they need to do in crunch times of their role. But then if you ask any older generation too, they want work life balance as well. It's not like they're trying to neglect that. They just know that sometimes the urgent things have to come first. But I've also seen recent surveys that show that especially the younger Gen Z employees, I'm talking like 22 to 25, they're very what was the word the study used? I'm gonna have to paraphrase it, but they really want to advance. They want to seek
Mhm.
promotion.
Yeah, they're
And so
motivated.
yeah, they really are motivated, but they might use different language to talk about what they want. And so I've found it's more of a matter of semantics and understanding that, okay, we really want the same things. We just have different experiences that have led us to this point. And so it feels different, like you said, because Gen Z, I mean, they don't know life without screens and phones. And a lot of the older folks in the organization know what it's like before. And so just that nature alone is going to cause a difference in the way the brains work.
One of the things that's interesting about that is as a leader myself, I don't always know when it's a language barrier or an actual personnel issue.
Hmm.
Right. So a language barrier feels much nicer when I hear you talk about I'm like, oh, that's pretty manageable. But
Right.
then also when I think about the situations that I help a lot of my clients through, it's to have the right person in the right seat.
Yep.
How do you suggest that leaders in today's world identify when it's a language barrier or when it's a maybe a skill deficiency or even worse, a character or value deficiency?
Yeah. I don't think you can know that until you've really tried to mentor them.
Mm,
Until then, you're only getting the mask version of them because they're likely scared, they're likely afraid of failing, they are afraid that if you saw the real them, that you would think that they're not good enough, and so therefore either write them off or even fire them. So I think you gotta work in their direction, and I use the word fathering a lot when I talk to some of these businesses because they've thrown their hands up, "I don't know what to do with these kids." They call them kids. I'm like, "Well, they're adults, but a lot of them probably didn't have a great father growing up for whatever reason." Like, the
yeah.
stats show that the fathering has decreased over the last couple decades, and so like it or not, this is how they're coming to you and they're unfinished. And so you can yell at them or shame them or scold them all you want, but if they don't get what they should have gotten before, then nothing's really going to change. So I tell them, look, you got to mentor them, you got to father them. And, there's different aspects of what that looks like. But until you do that for at least, I'd say 3 months, you don't really know what you have.
Well, it's interesting that you would say 3 months because one of the things that I see a lot is that most of the leaders that I talk to are trying to move so fast
Mm,
that they don't actually get like I think that they start planting seeds of growth and fathering, to use your word, but then
mhm.
also when it comes down to it, they don't actually sit around long enough to like let it grow.
Yep.
And so someone else ends up reaping the benefits of their, labor early on. How do
Yep.
we know how do we know when we've let it marinate long enough?
Mm. Yeah, I say you gotta give them little tests. Let them lead a meeting, for example, or let them take the ownership of some sort of project. Don't leave them and just say, "Hey, good luck." I mean, do it alongside them, but let them see that you believe in them enough to trust them with something at least small, and then let them see that they actually have what it takes to accomplish that. Because then if they well, whether they succeed at it or whether they fail at it, it's a learning opportunity for both sides. Like, okay, well, do you still want this employee? And then they get to decide, oh, is this actually still the position for me? But it's all theoretical until you actually throw them in, at least to the shallow end.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is, um, as a leader, I tend to get scared
Mhm.
about letting someone who I'm not quite sure is developed do
Yep,
something that could reflect negatively upon me.
exactly.
You have any
Yeah.
wisdom for us there? Like, what do we do with what do I do with that fear, Trey? Like, how do I make it more palatable in the sense of like, I don't want to lose my job because that guy's not good at his.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. And this is a tough answer because it's going to be nuanced to different situations. I think the general principle is if you're in the role of mentoring this person, then you got to have them right next to you as you do the reps and then quickly make them do the reps where you're right next to them. So whenever it comes time to make that decision of, well, should I put them out in front where they potentially fail and also look bad on me? It's like, well, no,
Uh,
we've done 100 reps together. So I at least know what they can do when the spotlight is not on them. But yeah, it's going to be scary. I mean, you probably didn't get to your position that you're in, Tony, or anybody that's listening, that y'all probably didn't get to your positions just by playing it safe all the time. It's growth actually does require some risk, and you can't be courageous unless you're at least a little bit scared.
yeah, one of the things we tell our kids all the time is that trust is given and mistrust is earned.
Mm.
And so if you have given me reasons to mistrust you, but day one when somebody joins my team, the trust tank is full.
Mm.
Like there's a reason I brought you on. Like you're the person I want. I want to be with you. Full
Yeah.
trust tank. Here's the keys to the building. I mean, think about all the things that happen in the first week somebody shows up at a workplace. You give them a computer, you give them keys, you give them all the things that could potentially ruin you. And then later on, we're scared about a presentation. Like it just doesn't like it's a little bit of a head game. And when you think about it abstractly, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And what you just did, I'm sure you're aware of this too, but you gave them 50% of what they need. You told them basically, I trust you, I believe in you. And then the other 50% is here's the standard. The standard is going to stay high. I'm not going to
Yeah.
drop it because if I drop it, that also sends the message that I don't believe in you. So they need to hear both. I trust you, I believe in you, and we have a high standard that I'm going to hold you to.
One of the things that I appreciate about your content, and if you're not following Trey on YouTube and Instagram, I suggest you do so. You can look him up by going to Rugged Counseling. Is that you take uh, current day events and then you give them kind of a therapist's response to it. And I've seen you do it recently with one of my favorite bands, Red Clay Strays, and I know Drew from that band. I've got to know a little bit over the years, and it's
Oh, no way.
incredible Christian dudes. Love them to death.
Yeah.
You did that with the Odyssey. You've done that with the Florida Gators head coach, and couple different spiffs where you take a clip and then you talk over it.
Yeah.
Help me. I mean, obviously, from a marketing standpoint, that makes great sense because it's things that people are talking about.
Right.
But I think also from what the world needs to hear, I think you're giving us something really important. Talk to us about why we need to sometimes understand what the content we're consuming in a more intentional way.
Man. Okay. We can go all kinds of different directions with this one. The reason I really do that stuff, the responding to what's already out there in culture, is it's a story. It's like Jesus taught in parables. He's sometimes taught with just principles, but he knows how he designed our brains and our hearts, and he knows that the story a lot of times can bypass all the junk that ends up in the front of our brains, the logic part and the doubting part, and it can just go straight to the heart when you use a story. And it's a similar process. Like, for example, when I did a video about Ted Lasso, they just came out with a new season, first episode, and there's a lot of father-son elements in there.
Yeah,
So,
that was deep, man. That Ted Lasso episode, I
yeah.
think we're probably safe to talk about it. What was your take?
Yeah.
What was your take?
Oh, I love it. The main message that I was seeing is that a son, or really a daughter in whatever case, but a kid has to see their parent chasing after something big, chasing after a dream, and he has to see a parent passionate. Because I'm not going to give spoilers here, but Ted has taken a different job, and it's basically he's just dead on the inside. He's still trying to make a difference in the job where he is, but
Playing
his
video
son,
games. My favorite line in that whole series was when he asked his mom, "Why don't you ask me about your work?" And she replies with, "Well, people don't ask about things that you aren't passionate about."
yeah, yeah, exactly. If you don't care about it, why should I care about it? So
Right.
yes. So that was the message I took away, is that a kid has to see that his parent is actually passionate about what they're doing in their career, or at least in something in their life.
And then you're using that as a way to kind of launch that discussion into what's
Yep.
always been who you're about, which is the mental health aspect, the fullness of life with Christ, kind of that what
Yeah.
I would say is living a life of integrity, fully integrated,
Right.
where everything matches. Because I think, you know, I don't know what you're seeing in the world, but one of the things that I'm seeing is there's a really big disconnect between the leader that people want to be and the leader that they show up as.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard to see our own blind spots, and especially it's hard to, I don't know, wrap our hands and head around abstract concepts. So if you can see on a screen somebody else going through something similar, it can help make a light go on in you. So yeah, we could talk about these concepts of like, yeah, you got to be a dad who's passionate. Like, well, thanks. That's huge. But if you say like, here's what Ted Lasso did, you can put yourself in Ted's shoes and be like, okay, how well am I doing with that?
One of the things that I know about you is how connected you are to other people, right? You and I have become dear friends over the last several years and kind of been on this journey together. But also you've got the friend that you're going to all these baseball parks with, and you're on an adventure. How do you decide who you let in your circle, or who would I say is I call it the council of the godly, right?
Man, yeah,
And
right.
so how do you decide who's on your council?
Yes. Oh man, we could do a whole nother episode on this, but the first thing that I look for is integrity. Like, are they the same person in almost any situation? Because if I see them putting on different masks and different personas, I'm like, I might need to keep them on maybe the intermediate circles. But if they're comfortable with who they are and they don't mind showing their flaws, at least in most situations, that's first and foremost what I see. And then also it goes back to that passion thing. Are they chasing something? Are they living for something? Or are they just kind of existing? Because I know well enough to know that I'm pretty motivated myself, but if I surround myself regularly with people who are just kind of staying passive, then I'm going to drift in that direction as well. And for me, of course, I want them to be chasing Jesus, but even if they're not yet, I can at least see that aspect in them of like, okay, they've got a hunger, they've got a fire to pursue something and make a difference. And then that third thing is making a difference for somebody other than themselves. I want them to have some sort of a sense of a larger story around them. So I'm sure the list could go on, but those are the top three.
Yeah,
What are
I
yours?
think for me, like integrity is one of them. I want people who are following Jesus but are also hopeful. Like
Mm,
I love being around possibilities people. People who are like,
mm,
What does this make possible?" Even on the
yep.
hard stuff, right? And you do such a great job of that. You're always like, "Well, what does this make possible?" And the things that I think are really future focused, growth oriented. One of the terms that I like that my buddy Tim uses is double bottom lined. Like,
Mm,
I want you to be wildly successful, and however you want to define that, and I want you to do good in the world,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
And that's that
absolutely.
for me, all of those things kind of stack on top of each other so that people can lean in and grow. And how many people do you keep in your circle at any given time? Like, let's get super nitty gritty about it.
Man, that's a good question. I don't have the brain power for more than, are we talking about inner circle, like the closest of the close?
However you want to define it.
All right. So yeah, I'll go inner circle. I personally don't have the capacity for more than 5 people on the innermost circle.
Yeah.
I don't do a good enough job. Maybe I don't. Maybe my brain's not big enough to keep up with more than 5, like on a really super regular basis, where I'm keeping up with what they're up to on the daily, or even just the weekly. But I'd say my intermediate circle, if we're looking concentric circles, the intermediate circle is pretty big. I'd probably say it's 30 to 40, something
Yeah.
like that. But and it's nothing against those 30 to 40. It could be a physical proximity thing. It could be a stage of life thing, but I don't know. I mean, if Jesus, his pattern was what, the 12 disciples and then the 3 closest ones, is that right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that I'm following that perfectly, but I get the general idea.
Yeah, I would say that I try to model something similar to that, where I've got people on the podcast have heard me talk about this before, like real friends, friends that are connected to a role that we play in each other's life, and then like internet friends. So like
Mm.
real role internet or kind of peripheral people that we only kind of keep track of each other on the occasion. And
Mhm.
so it's interesting. I think real friends wise, I'm probably at 3 to 5.
Mhm.
And then that role friend number is pretty big because of,
Right.
obviously because of coaching relationships. I tend to get close with my coaching clients. And then also church relationships and those kind of things. So
Yeah.
it's good that way. And I encourage guys, like, I know a lot of people get nervous about making friends because they don't want to lose the friends, but I've kind of adapted this position where like grief from loss of friendship or life is such a terrible privilege.
Mm. Yeah.
How do you deal with seasonal change?
Phew, man, it reminds me of a sermon a long time ago that I heard Tim Keller give, and he was in New York City, and the sermon, I believe, was about friendship. But the only part I really remember was he said, "In a city like New York, where there's so much transition and so many people moving in and out, if you're not making new friends every 2 years, at least every 2 years, then in 5 years you're gonna have no friends." And I don't know that that's the same in every city because New York is such a fast-paced city, but the principle is the same. I continually need to be investing into new friendships because I know just life happens. People move, people have kids, people pass away, whatever it is. And so you just constantly got to be investing and planting seeds. And I've also found that, man, there's some pleasant surprises that come from it. There's a guy here in Chattanooga where I live, and he kind of got put into my sphere on accident, and I had fun talking to him a couple times. I thought, you know what? I'm gonna just see if he wants to hang out, and we now hang out not super regularly, but it's like I was not looking for a new friend, but we're the same, basically the same DNA, the same flavor as each other. I'm like, this is the kind of thing I need to keep doing more of.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's actually why I'm really excited about the big announcement that we're going to make. And we might as well just tell everybody right now about what we're doing, about what our hope is, about what our prayer is, about why this might be perfect for you. So Trey, kind of give us a rundown on what's this new project that you and I are leaning into together.
Yeah, well, I think it starts with our friendship, like you mentioned earlier. It's like we gotta invite other people in on this because you know how to do it really well. We'll see how well I know how to do it. But now I think just the synergy that you and I experience, and then how the relationship building skills that you and I each bring to the table, we want to share that with other people. So we're going to start a group. We're calling it a mastermind group to give it a nice fancy official title. But really, the whole idea is to get together with like-minded guys who are generally walking in the same direction, not the same type of job or anything like that, but generally want to grow, want to build some really practical skills that can help advance your career, because that's very important, and work on some of those intangible kind of heart-based skills and traits as well, and do it together in a safe environment of people that are rooting for you, and that allow you to really be yourself and not be afraid of being rejected for actually getting real.
Yeah, the integrated leader mastermind is really about making sure that whatever season of life that you're in, whether you feel wildly successful or overwhelmed to the point you're just doing bicep curls all day long, essentially, that that you know that you're not alone, and that you don't have to live life that way. And there are a lot of people in the world who have been where you are and can help you get through it faster.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, Trey, but I'm kind of the opinion you could probably survive this season of your life without us and be fine, right? Like God's good and big and all of those things, but we want to help you get there faster and last longer, because burnout is not what we want.
No, definitely not what we're designed for either. It's a sign that something has to change. And you're right. You can do this without us, and definitely go for it. Find out what kind of resources you've got in your life that you can lean on. And then if it turns out that we can be useful for you, then we've been through it enough times ourselves and walked with other people to go through it who have been through it as well.
The Integrated Leader Mastermind will be 6 months long. It'll go on Thursday evening. So it'll be after the workday, but also after your kids go to bed. So it'll be late in the evening on Thursdays. We're taking applications. So not everyone is going to get in. We're going to keep it intentionally small, not more than 12 guys. We want to get to know your story. We want you to feel seen and heard. And that'll be a critical part of it. So everybody will get a chance to talk. It's also why we're going to be really intentional about curating it. When you think about the perfect person who's a member of this mastermind, what are some of the qualities?
I would say that would duplicate the list that we were just talking about on who makes it into our inner circle. Yeah. I can't think of better traits than that. How about you?
Yeah. Growth oriented, willing to talk about the hard stuff. And, obviously, we're not going to ask you to share anything you're not comfortable with, but you need to be willing to be vulnerable. Growth comes through vulnerability. I always say that the best fruit's out on a limb. And so you've got to go get it, and you got to be willing to lean out there. And then it's going to be the person who can hold space for each other and what that means and looks like, and support each other. Because while I do think that Trey and I have a really great plan for content when it comes to this cohort and mastermind, the best gift that we know that you're going to get is from the other guys in the group. And I think that brings up an important point. For now, we're going to limit it to just guys. And we're going to wait and see how that goes before we think about doing a co-ed group. Trey, why is that important to know?
Yeah, it's just from an education principle, like where I've done teaching in the past, the all guys school allows all guys to really learn more because they can take risks without having the pressure to impress the girls in the classroom. And we never really grow out of that as guys. We're always going to hold a little back when we feel like there's some female opinions on the line. And there's certain topics where this is not a counseling group, but there will be certain topics where men may not want to share certain levels of details with women in the same group. And I would assume the same with women. They're probably going to hold back if there's men in the room as well. So we'll see how to invite the ladies in the future. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think intimacy has a way of bringing us closer together. And sometimes it's not always healthy to be intimate with someone of the opposite gender, right? It's just not a safe place, especially for the married guys in the group. That can be a tough swing sometimes. So I think this is a really good way to kind of start. And honestly, from your and I's perspective, we know what it means to be Christian men. We don't know what it means to be Christian women. And so as integrated leaders, to get us started, this feels a little safer for you and I personally, I think.
I think so. Staying within our area of expertise.
One of the things that I'm really excited about is that because we're doing it over Zoom, because we're doing it in the evening, no matter what season of life that you're in, maybe you're a young entrepreneur who's got a young family, maybe you're a seasoned executive who's thinking about passing his business on to the next generation. Those two groups of people will be able to meet in this space and learn from each other. And I think it's going to be such a gift to the guys who we let in. And so the application process will be there's a Google form. It'll be on both of our websites, linked there. You'll find everything you need there. You can fill that out, and then Trey or I will get back to you in a pretty timely fashion to see if you're a right fit. I'm sure we'll probably be calling people and doing interviews over the phone just to make sure that it feels good. And man, I'm excited about what God is going to do through this group.
Me too, buddy. Me too. This is going to be fun. I think, like you said, it can make a ripple effect, not just on the folks that are with us in the group, but all the people in their individual lives as well.
So the group's going to start towards the end of September. It'll go Thursday evenings over Zoom. So travel's not an excuse. You can take the call from anywhere at any time. And obviously, it's going to go for 6 months. And we'll talk about how we're going to end that. I think we've got a couple of really exciting ideas and what that means and looks like. Trey, when you think about this group of guys that are going to start joining and meeting in September, what are you most excited about?
I'm excited about maybe for the first time, some of these guys get to experience what it means to really have a teammate outside of their actual sport. I talk to guys that they might not necessarily resonate with the word isolated or lonely, but when you dig a little bit and you ask them basically who really knows you well, who you connected to, who can you lean on, a lot of the guys I talk to, they don't have many, and some of them don't have any. And when you give them a taste of what real connection can look like, it's like, oh, wait, I needed this the whole time. I had no idea I needed it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm so excited about hearing the stories.
Yeah.
I think guys hearing guys' stories change lives. It's good.
Love it.
So good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's lots of ways to get connected to us. Trey, what's the best way to find you on the interwebs, to find the link on your website? How do we lean into all of this?
Easiest way is ruggedcounseling.com. And then it's same handle all over social media, Rugged Counseling, whatever your preferred social media is. But yeah, ruggedcounseling.com is the easiest way.
And for me, it's super simple. TWMilt, TWMILT. You can go to that.com and there'll be a link on there. There'll also be a link in my socials and all the places. There's so many ways to get connected. You and I are both embarrassingly easy to find.
Yes, indeed. We're ubiquitous.
Okay, Trey, last thing we're doing this year is we're going to ask all of our guests this year to introduce us to their favorite leader of all time. The one in the flesh, no Jesus answers. We know Jesus is the perfect leader. When you think about your life on earth, who is the one in-person flesh leader that you need to introduce the bold ones to?
Man, Kenny Scholl comes to mind, and he was my second boss. You talk about somebody who comes to you and say, I trust you, I believe in you. He gave me my first start in education.
Wow.
And I had no experience. And he took a chance on me because the position that he hired me for, it really needed somebody more experienced. And not only did he trust me with that, but then he has mentored me and continues to mentor me all these years. And he's a fantastic blend of strength and power and also tenderness, because I think it's easy to go too far in one direction. But yeah, he's the first and really the only one that comes to my mind.
That's awesome. Trey, forever thankful for our friendship and the way God continues to grow in us. And I'm so excited to do this cohort with you. I know God is going to do something amazing. Closing thoughts from our community here?
Goodness, I got to go back to that silence thing. It's just start with 10 seconds, maybe move to 60 seconds. I think if you do it consistently, you're going to notice that your brain thanks you.
Well, friends, that's our podcast episode for today. As always, we're forever thankful for you, the bold ones. You make this community possible. Our coaching question this week: how are you doing with the silence? Do an honest evaluation. Think about where God is calling you and what silence looks like in your life. And remember, if you need anything from us, easy to find. Don't hesitate to hit me up, Tony at TWMilt, or you can always find me on Instagram at TWMilt. And I do hope you'll consider applying for the cohort. I think it's going to be so good. This mastermind, the Integrated Leader Mastermind, is going to be so much fun. And remember, guys, if you want to follow Jesus, you must be willing to move.